Hi, welcome to this moment right here, right now. I'm so glad that you have chosen to join me today. Whew. So this week, I am going to attempt to make a little YouTube video for every day of the work week, like 5 this week, starting with today, which is Monday. And today I want to talk about irrational fears. And it's coming from a place of experience. Something that happened earlier today just kind of sparked that in me, and I thought, it would be cool to talk about this because it would help me. Talking things through often helps you feel better about them and lessens their effect on you, I think. But also it would be a great way for me to say, what's working for you? Help me out. Help me get this figured out in my life. So I have a couple of irrational fears. I'm really fearful of heights, which is, I guess, one that's pretty common, but it's things like when our kids were growing up and we would go to a hotel, if we stayed on a floor that was more than 3, maybe 4 stories up, and there was a balcony, A, nobody's going on the balcony, and 2, we need to get a different room on a lower floor or no one's going to have a good time on this trip. So we learned that from the get-go to make sure when we call the hotels that we don't get one that's any higher up than the 3rd or 4th floor. Can't explain it. Have never really worked through it. And anyway, the other one that I have that I really can't explain, and I don't know why it's this way, is I'm a really, really rotten passenger with my husband sometimes. We can barely make it out of the driveway, and oftentimes I'm like, because I think he's too close to the mailbox, or you just fill in the blank, whatever. But today, and it's not his fault. I trust him implicitly. That's the strange part about it. I don't know what it is. It's been that way for a long time. I've gotten better about it since we don't have small kids in the car anymore. But it's still there. And over the years, we've figured out different ways for me to kind of cope with it that makes it better for everyone. Anyway, so today, this is what happened. So he came home at lunchtime, and I was just getting stuff done around the house, and I followed him back to town in my car because my car needs some work done on it. So we're gonna leave it with the mechanic. And then he was bringing me back home in his car, and we got behind a logging truck on our narrow little road that leads to the street that we live on. And we both were like, why would this truck, it was a double logging truck. It had 2 trailers connected to it. Why would this truck be on such a narrow road? And we have a little 1-lane bridge that you have to cross right before you turn onto the road that we live on. And even though we were like 3 car lengths behind this logging truck, my anxiety level was so high that I thought I was going to ask my husband to stop the car so that I could get out. Because logging trucks scare me so much. I mean, they're not pleasant, and it is possible that they could, you could follow one into a curve and they could overturn, or I don't know, it could be any number of scenarios. But in my head, I don't know what I thought was going to happen, but I was very concerned about this truck trying to get over that little 1-lane bridge. The driver knew what he was doing. He figured it out. He probably didn't mean to be on that road, but we were both guessing maybe his GPS took him that way. Can't always trust that thing. Long story short, by the time we got home in our driveway, I was just beside myself. And I did my Reiki this morning. I did a nice long yoga. I meditated for a few minutes. I was quiet in the house by myself all morning, and bam, those 3 minutes in the car behind that logging truck just rocked my world. So I'm wondering how the irrational fear that we sometimes have, and it might be different for you, there's so many to choose from, how that can be something that keeps us from attaining a level of wellness that is better, that is more helpful, that gives us the tools that we need to deal with certain things like irrational fears. We don't know why. That's why they're called irrational. I can't figure out why it is that these things are in my head. You know, fear is not in and of itself a bad thing. We're born with a certain amount of fear in order to keep ourselves safe. That's healthy. But when it starts to be a problem is when you are fearing something that you can't figure out the root cause for, and you don't know why you can't stop yourself. Got my worry stone with me today. I'm still thinking about that earlier. And I'm just wondering, what is an irrational fear that you might have? If you want to comment below and kind of, you know, some of us are fearful of snakes. That's another one I have. But anyway, there are different ways that we can cope with and deal with and start to overcome these things. And one of the things that I learned this morning when I was reading an article is that it's good to have an affirmation in your head that you can use every time you start to feel really fearful and you're not sure why that is, what's the root of that fear. An affirmation such as, I am safe, I am loved, I am okay, you know, things like that. Also, to forgive yourself when you feel really fearful and you think, well, this is just dumb. There's no reason for this. It's not dumb. It might be irrational, but it's not dumb. It's important to you, and that means, you know, you need to pay attention to that and forgive yourself, because being upset about it in the first place is problematic. But if you're upset with yourself because this is something that you shouldn't be feeling, then I think that doesn't help the situation. Show yourself some grace, take a few deep breaths, and guys, here are 2 things that I have learned over the years traveling with 3 children, on road trips, and I'm not a person who takes in anything for anxiety as far as medication, because I don't think that I have anything that warrants something like that. However, when I am feeling anxious, it's very significant in those moments. And so these are 2 things that I've done over the years. I don't know if either one of these would work for you, but it helps me on a road trip to sometimes sit in the back seat and just have a magazine or a book that I can be reading so that I'm not looking up. Literally just keeping my eyes down is helpful to me, and it makes the time go by more quickly, and everyone else in the car gets there in one piece, and we're also not just all upset with each other because it's been too stressful on the road. And the other thing that I have done, I'm a grown-up, 56 years old, I have done this a number of times, is if it is after 12 when we get on the road, I take a nice vodka tonic with me and I sit in the back seat. It just takes that little edge off, and it makes the traveling much more pleasant for us all. I know this is not really like textbook ways that we handle stress and irrational fear, but sometimes you have to do what works if it's something that's not going to cause problem or harm for someone else. So anyway, just putting that out there today, and you know, your wellness is important. It is so important. Your physical well-being, your mental, emotional well-being, spiritual well-being, I mean, all of those things. And if you have an irrational fear, which I'm guessing most of us do at some point in our lives, knowing that other people share some kind of fear can be helpful, and having those tools that help you overcome, deal with, and cope with those fears, it's also helpful. You are beautiful. Say thank you to that beautiful body of yours today. If you got up and walked across the room, if you're breathing in and out, if you saw the sunrise this morning, what a gift. Thanks for listening, and if you've made it this far in the video, please like the video if you liked it, and subscribe. Share this with others if you think it would be helpful to them, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.